Welcome, Structures, episode number 8. Thanks for tuning in. If you are returning, thank you for continuing to listen. I appreciate everyone that's been listening and giving me feedback and all the wonderful comments and everything. I really appreciate it. So today, I got a guest I've known for a little bit here on the Instagram. My buddy Bobby Chaos up in Canada. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well today. I was busy earlier, as you know, but
Yeah.
I'm smoothing it out now, man. I'm ready to chill and have a great conversation with you and give you a chance to share your story with everyone that's interested.
Perfect, man. Appreciate it.
Well, I done introduced you to Bobby Chaos, so tell us where you're at and what kind of stuff you're into.
Um, well, for those who don't know, I am one of those modular synthesizer people on Instagram. That's pretty much all my presence is. I mean, I do have a YouTube where I put the kind of the extended performances, but it's mostly just Instagram. And I just like to be a part of that community. I started doing that just before the pandemic. I was getting into modular synthesizers for you know, it's a long story. We can get into that for sure. But I got into it, and then I post jams. I'm a noise artist. Um, I do other types of music as well, but it's typically pretty noisy. And yeah, it's just a really nice kind of a cathartic thing for me to create. Um, and I just hope to get better every day and put out things in the future for people to enjoy. Hopefully one of these good days I'll get some kind of an album out and kind of just build it up from there, I guess.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like you're really into the journey, and I know that you and I have connected before on the therapeutic aspect of it. That for
Yeah.
personally, the art, it really does something for you. For me it does, and I know for you too. But but
Yeah.
where in the world are you located? Where are you talking to me from right now?
I live in Calgary, Alberta, which is located in Canada.
The frozen tundra.
The Great White North, no doubt about it, eh?
Well, have you always lived up there in Canada?
Yeah, for sure. Grew up in a small town outside of Calgary, lived there until I was 18, 19, and moved away for school for a couple months and then moved back, and I just lived here ever since. So I've pretty much always just been here out on the Great Plains.
Nice,
Foothills, actually, the foothills of the Great Plains.
nice. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of growing up there, at what age did you get into playing music or get a strong interest and draw to making music?
Well, those are two separate things from me. The interest came basically, from birth onward kind of thing. My mother is from Trinidad and Tobago. She moved here when she was 16, I think, and so her family all came over, kind of with that Caribbean vibe, right? Like it's
Yeah.
the rhythms in the blood, and there's always listening to music like calypso and soca and that kind of thing. Two of her brothers are Rastafarians, and like proper ones from coming up in the '70s when Bob Marley was doing his thing, and that kind of spread out through through the islands and through the world, obviously.
Yeah.
But like that culture spread as well, eh? And so they had the dreadlocks, they were smoking the ganja as like a holy sacrament, and all the rest of it, right? So
Hmm.
reggae was a part of it as well. So from a very early age, that music and that rhythm kind of I came up with that. And on the other side, my dad is your typical North American white guy, likes rock and roll, and he was a drummer.
Mm.
So from a very early age, he would be jamming with his bandmates or whomever in the basement. I would be around hearing this rock music, listening to the rock music he's cranking on the stereo. He's a big Aerosmith fan, Rush, that kind of stuff. Um, he had lots of different stuff around the house too, like Police and Queen and that kind of thing. So music was always around. But like as far as instruments are concerned, like I say, he's a drummer, and so from a very very early age, I'm around that element. I didn't get to playing until honestly much later, but one of my earliest and fondest memories is I would like to, when they were jamming, kind of sneak in, they're rocking out, they're playing whatever they're playing, and he didn't have any skins on the bottom of his drums because he liked it because it was louder. He was like a
Yeah.
really heavy-handed drummer. Like the drums would kind of just rock back and forth when he played. Like he was a really heavy hitter, really really good
Wow.
in that way. And I would just crawl right in that kick drum. I was whatever 2, 3, actually no, because I was living, yeah, outside of the city, so I would have been 3, 4, 5 years old, that kind of range. I would crawl right in the kick drum while the band was playing, and oftentimes I would just fall asleep in there.
That's so
So
rad.
yeah, and so like from this
Oh,
early
sorry about
age,
those dogs.
no worries. I'm sure my dog will go off at some point here. Um, from an early age, I was just like kind of baptized in that noise, as it were. Being this noise artist and just being into this like intense kind of you know, style of music, just that pounding, bludgeoning, all-consuming sound is really deeply embedded in me.
Yeah, I can see from a very early age. It's literally pumped into you from that bass drum,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
or that kick drum. That's
So
that's pretty cool.
yeah, man. And and then as just to answer, oh no, did you hear my dog
Yeah, I
squealing?
did.
Oh, got a little spook. He's just a
It's
little guy.
okay. I think I have animals in every episode, honestly.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, I didn't start playing instruments until later on. I kind of gave it a little bit of a go, but like, sometimes you have like a relationship with a parent, you like want to do everything that they do all the time instantly, and sometimes it's like a bit of a push-pull kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a bit of a push-pull for me. I didn't learn drums were my first instrument. I didn't learn the drums until my buddies started learning the drums, and I started to get jealous. I
Oh
was like,
wow.
"Why are you showing him?" And my dad's like, "Well, I tried to show you."
Oh, your dad was
So
teaching him.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. Now I
Because
see the jealousy element. Yeah. Like, hey, what? You're not teaching me?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Never mind the fact that he did try and teach me earlier, and I just didn't want to,
Right. Right.
because that push pull was talking about. So,
Exactly. You want
um,
to do it on your time. Yeah.
yeah, and just yeah, it's just it it didn't hit the same because it's like he wanted to show me kind of what he did and what he listened to and all the rest of it, and it just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't all the way make sense to me to do it in that way until I was like, like a young teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, I can kind of, you know, perf- you know, learn the craft of an instrument to perform a certain style of music. When I was younger, the music was more of an emotional pull for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I would have had a synthesizer back then, I probably would have gravitated towards it a lot better. Not only because it was the 80s. Yes, everyone listening, I'm old.
Hmm.
But also because it's there was just this um I just had more of like an ephemeral kind of kind of a feeling about it, like I say, like more emotional or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And so the idea of a more concrete regimented thing of learning an instrument, especially something that's so you know brutal and down to earth, as like taking a stick and hitting something with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That just didn't it just didn't wasn't what I would have kind of attached to. And so as I got older and my buddies were starting to get into bands and playing and starting to listen to metal. I'm a big metalhead. Then the drums started to make more sense. So buddy learned drums. I got jealous. I learned the drums. That was my instrument. I played that for some time, um, up through high school for the most part, when I started to kind of get playing the bass a little bit. When I was with drums, I played with a couple buddies doing like metal, like Metallica, and like new metal was big back then, so we do a little bit of
Yeah.
that. Did some Deftones,
Yeah.
did some Iron Maiden or whatever, and then just blending those kind of two general genres. And then later on, maybe 15, 16, 17 kind of area, um, I started to slowly transition into more of like a steady band. And I was in a steady kind of like a pop kind of grunge band for quite some time. Played drums for a little bit with them, and then my other buddy came in on drums, and I was the bassist.
Hmm.
And so bass became my primary instrument from 16, 17 until my early 20s. Well, shoot, I guess maybe even into my late 20s. Did that for the longest time, was fairly serious about it, put out an album, and disbanded quickly after, as is the old tale.
Hmm.
And then I started playing in some metal bands with some other buddies. I had some friends that we were playing in a Sepultura cover band for the longest time, and we were enjoying that pretty heavily. And then I started to. I realize we only asked one question, but I'm just trying to come all the way around here for you. Um,
No, it's all good, man.
cool, cool. I got I started to get injuries a lot. I didn't really understand what was going on.
Mm.
My wrists would go out all the time. I was walking around with braces all the time, and it's slowly and slowly and slowly, but surely, I lost my ability to kind of play. Um, and then I just had to let go of that last band I was in. We were playing Sepultura with my buddies, and I just couldn't do the bass anymore. Couldn't understand why. And I was a pretty like I was a pretty intense player to a certain degree. I wasn't necessarily really like talented or anything. Probably like theory was my weaker suit, and like style was more so my stronger suit. But I would do slap, and I would play for hours and hours on end. Um, it's not like I had some kind of like physical weakness, but there was a degradation that I didn't understand that was occurring.
Mm.
What eventually I discovered is that I've got fibromyalgia. So people don't know that's like a chronic pain, chronic fatigue illness, and it impacts like your physicality. And for me, I lost the ability to play traditional instruments. I couldn't play bass or drums, and I used to play like a lot of guitar kind of on my own, kind of just like home recordings and that kind of thing.
Right.
Couldn't do any of that stuff. Still, that left me in a place of like depression at first because I really identified as a musician,
Right.
despite not being a professional. But I really identified with it.
Right.
Um, and eventually, I came out on the other side of that, and I realized that I'm not this monolith of an external kind of practice. I'm a whole person. There's different aspects to me and all the rest of it, right?
Right.
But when I came on the other side of that, I was like, well, but I'm still a person, like an artist, and I still have a creativity that needs fulfilling.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's when I sought out all, something else that I could do. And so something that my body could physically handle. I was doing stuff on the computer, like in a DAW, and that kind of thing. Like I say, tracking like a little bit of guitar into there, and I couldn't do it anymore. But I had like the files, and I was messing with those. Um, but I sit in front of a computer all day long at work, and I'm barely getting by because of my illness, and or it's like up and down a little bit, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and so I found the synthesizer, and all I got to do is turn some knobs, plug in some cables, I'm good to go. So that's how I got into that. Did that for a little bit. I was a little shy about it, but my wife convinced me to share it with people. I eventually took her advice, and the rest is Instagram history, if you will.
Well, I'm so glad that she suggested that and that you did it. Yeah. That's
Me too. Thanks.
because not just from sharing or enjoying your sounds, but just meeting you. I really appreciate you, and uh, that's just really grateful that I did meet you, even if it's just online across continent. So
Oh, dude, same.
yeah.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely. You're one of the first people I got to be friends with, and like you go on like guitar Instagram and it's like a little harsh, right? You go
Yeah.
on like synthesizer or like found sound or like just like all the circles that we
Yeah.
kind of are in. It's more inclusive and it's a nicer place with nicer people and yeah, I appreciate you as well, man.
I wonder if it has something to do with in a, I guess if you want to paint it with a broad brush, the kind of more experimental or you know, out of the mainstream kind of artists. It's like I don't know what it is about it, but yeah, it seems like a pretty good
Yeah,
atmosphere.
for sure. I wonder as well. I mean, I agree with that to a certain extent, but then you kind of look at the like the power electronic scene, which is not the biggest scene in the world,
True,
and there's
true.
definitely folks like that in there. But then you also have like
Yeah, there's all kinds.
like
Yeah,
Nazis or whatever, right? I
yeah.
don't know if I should be saying that word on YouTube, but
You can say what you
um,
want on this show. I don't care.
cool man. Don't want you to get shouted
But
at
I
or
guess
anything,
maybe I
but
should have say leaning more towards like the independent artist or you know not necessarily ones going for a commercial or a
oh yeah,
professional goal entirely. You know.
totally, totally, because like who's gonna make it big and famous doing what we do? Probably nobody.
Right.
But
Right.
we're enjoying ourselves and we're sharing what we do and there's like a sense of camaraderie and community in that small niche. Like I totally agree that like the smaller groups of folks and it can be more tight knit, right? You get to that broader scope and like guitar. Who plays guitar? Everybody plays
Everybody.
guitar, right? Everybody from the kind of the niche kind of performing type of people, the nicer kind of people to Joe Blow trying to get chicks or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Everybody in between.
Exactly.
And that's not to lessen the instrument. I love guitar,
Yeah,
but yeah, I know what you mean. It's different. It's a much broader base. Yeah, a
yeah,
broader
for
group of
sure.
people, and maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe this, like you said, the smaller group has more of, or it could foster more of that sense of inclusiveness and familiarity because you don't get lost in a sea as much. You know, the sea of
Totally.
numbers of other people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also wonder if it's like it has like any kind of like a from like a anthropological kind of a standpoint or whatever like that. When you're in a smaller group, you have more accountability to the members of that group, and so if you're acting like an ass,
Yeah.
those people aren't going to stand for it as much, right?
Right.
So
That's a very good point.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. That kind of happened to me with my job change lately. I was
Mm,
was at a bigger place. Easier just to blend in, do the minimum, get by, you know, and and not that I slacked off or made problems, but it was just that type of environment, you know.
mm.
And now I'm at a much smaller operation, and it's it. I mean, I've only been there a couple weeks, but I can already feel the the tighter knit feeling of the people because it's such a smaller group of people, you know.
For sure.
So it's
Yeah,
like a
that's
real
awesome. No, I'm
life
glad that worked
example.
out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Well, now I want to go back to when you because you talked about it briefly, but when you kind of switched from traditional instruments to synthesizers, and I know that that's just the surface, like that's the tools of the trade there. That's the artist tools, but you
Yeah.
mentioned like the mental aspect of it and the depression. Like how
Mm.
how'd that hit you, and how did you deal with it? You know, how'd you pull yourself up out of that? You know what I mean? Like, cause I've been there. I know other people have been there, and not necessarily with the same exact circumstance, but you know, you hit a block, you get depressed. What am I going to do now? And you're looking for an answer. You know, how'd you handle that mentally before you even were able to take action and do something?
That's a good question. I don't know how much I've ever thought of that before. Um, I'm not much of a like milestone event kind of a person. Like I don't think or feel so much about like this happened and then I was like this. Like that's
Right.
not
Right.
really one of those people. So I think in a sort of a gradual, organic sense, I don't know. Like I thinking back, it might have been like maybe like a stages of grief kind of thing. Like you're, and I don't remember what the stages are, but like, there's like different levels to it. Like you're,
Right.
whatever, like inconsolable and kind of just in it for X amount of time, and then you start to get some space to breathe, and you start to recover a little bit, and you kind of like come back to yourself,
Hmm.
and then you start to find that space, and then you can find what other self you are, right? We're all these different components as human beings, right? Like you're not a, you know, you're a machinist, but you're also a father, but you're also a member of society, but you're also a I don't know, basket weaver or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you've got your hobbies, you've got your job, you've got your societal and family role, and spiritual for some folks, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, I think eventually, as I basically had to accept that that wasn't something in my life, and I just your focus gets drawn out to the other things in your life, and so for me, I think I started to realize, oh yeah, no, there's other things in life, and I have like other responsibilities as a person. I have to think about, you know how else I have to carry through the world. Like you can't just fall over and die. You gotta keep going, and you gotta find something else, and so as I kind of started to find all those different other aspects of myself, um, I uh, I started to come to the realization that I'm not a category. I'm a person, and so when I found that, a certain amount of like peace or like relief kind of started to come in,
Right. Right.
because you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like visiting the grave over and over and just weeping and weeping and weeping, and then eventually, maybe one day you don't go to the grave because someone invited you out for coffee or whatever, right? And then you start to. It's not that you let that part, you know, disappear. You just say, well,
You come to peace with it,
there's
I guess.
come to peace. There's other
Yeah.
places, yeah. You just other ways to be, and so when I found like some kind of like internal personal acceptance and comfort in that feeling, that's when I was able to, well, first I spent some time kind of just being in that space, and cultivating it, and you know being, fusing with it, I guess. And then after a while, I kind of started to feel that kind of lack of fulfillment again, and it's like, well, am I going back to that same place? Well, no, it's something different. It's the thought that there's just that need to, like I say, like to create. And so once I realized that that was something that I really had, and although one part was gone, that part remained.
Mm.
I was like, well, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to have love in your life, you got to be happy, and for me, I have to create. So I tried to pursue that as much as I could, and that was like I had, throughout this period, I'd picked away at little files and things on the DAW,
Hmm.
but there was only so much computer work that I could do, because of my illness, and then eventually I started to find a space where I was able to do that a little bit. Now I work full time in front of computers, so um, I was able to do that somewhat, but it just wasn't fulfilling enough. It just wasn't enough because
Right. Right.
when I played before, it was very much like a visceral experience for me. Like um, I like to be like in the jam room, just like, rocking out, whipping my hair around, and digging into my bass hard. Like if you listen to like Geddy Lee, I mean, he's just got a P bass and a regular amp. I don't remember what amp he plays, but like that tone. You listen to his tone, and it's got depth and grit. You watch that man play, and he digs into those strings. Like I was a really visceral player. I was really into that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that physicality is really important to me. So clicking the mouse just wasn't doing it for me, right?
Right. Right.
So that's when I thought about what my options were, and the DAW that I was using is Reason, and Reason, nobody laugh out there in YouTube land, don't laugh at me. Uh, it has a bit of a modular aspect to it. It's not the most popular DAW in the world, and it's maybe like a a tear down or whatever, but it's very much has a modular aspect to it. There's a function you can do where you flip the rack around. You can have like the whatever the compressors and the synths and whatever on the screen. You press tab and it flips around. And when it flips around, you see the back of the units and the cables start swinging because you just moved it, right?
Oh
And you
wow.
could patch everything in. Yeah, so it's kind of cool that way.
Yeah.
Didn't have like a Bitwig back then, and I mean uh, Ableton, even through like the mid 2000s and 2010s and that kind of thing. I'm sure it had that kind of cross modulation functionality, but it didn't have that visual aspect, which really helped with my kind of understanding of it. Right? It's
Yeah.
not
For
like I
sure.
came from a deep synthesizer background. Like I went to audio engineering school, but it didn't really take too much beyond that. So coming up using that platform was something that really helped me to develop the skill set and the knowledge to be a synthesist. And so having that kind of like I say background there, I
Yeah.
was like, well, I guess that's maybe what I'm going to be looking at. So the first things that I bought were a Volca drum, I think it is,
Yeah.
and the Micro Brute. So little semi-modular dudes. But I got those. I got like what was it? A Fostex X88 four is a four track or eight
Yeah.
track. I guess it's an eight track cassette recorder, little mixer dude, right?
Hmm.
So I had that, and I can send it into the computer. I had like a little interface there, and but I would like record it to the tape to get some grit,
Sure.
and I put pedals on things. Did a little bit of patching, bought some little passive mults so I could repatch into things and to kind of give it some complexity and like FM things a little
Yeah.
bit, frequency modulate, right? So modulate things instead of at like a lower voltage rate at a audio level voltage rate to give it like a kind of like an intensity.
Hmm.
Um, and I would drop some pedals on it too. I put I had like a Boss chorus that I put on the Micro Brute to kind of give it
Yeah.
a little bit of business
Oh,
there.
that's cool because
And
you've had pedals already from before.
right from
Yeah.
the
You just
guitar,
had them
right?
sitting around.
Yeah,
It's
man.
only natural. Hey, let's plug these up.
Totally. That was because I was just patching things together, right? Like I didn't really have any other people to look to for this. I didn't know Calgary had a noise scene. I didn't, when I was on Instagram, I was looking at pictures of guitars. Like I didn't know anybody was out there. And I didn't really know anybody who did this kind of thing. So I just kind of figured it out myself, kind of. And I had this wicked, uh, what's that? How do you pronounce the Tool albums? Is it Anima or Enema? I think it's Anima, right?
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's this pedal by a pedal builder. She doesn't do it anymore. She dropped out of the game. Debbie Ever. I think she made a pedal for Trent Reznor for the Downward Spiral album. I think. Anyways, she makes wicked fuzz pedals,
Yeah.
and this Anima pedal is just deadly. Like it just murders your track. So I put this on the vocal drum, and that's like a little
I,
it's like a
I
little
love
little
that.
thing.
It's deadly. So I used it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, put it on there, and
For sure.
it's like like it's a heavy
Yes.
industrial
Yeah. Yeah.
madness. And so this is where I'm starting, right? Like I've
Yeah.
I've got this like background, like in that sense of like I said, Nine Inch Nails, or in like um, some Skinny Puppy and some Ministry in there, right? And so that's like a big kind of source of where that sensibility of music came from with those tools. And so that's where I started, and it would just kind of snowball from there. Checked some stuff out on Instagram, and then started to learn about all the modular folks. Learned about some of the tools. Eventually picked up a Kilpatrick phenol, and that's when I started to go onto Instagram. Oh, maybe I got the No Coast first. Yeah, I got the Make Noise No Coast first, and then I really got into to modular, and then I was like, this is too small. I need something big. I need something proper. Didn't have enough to buy a full case, and the
Yeah.
phenol is basically most of what you need to kind of get started with all the basic tools, eh? So
Yeah. Fun fact: the Volca keys, I think, was my first one was a Volca as well.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I love that they make those little entry level guys. They're so that people can learn, they can afford to get into it,
Yeah.
and it's fine. It's fine to make what you want to make. Like if you look at Andy Black on Instagram,
Yeah.
the gorgeous music that dude makes, and he's just got like a little Volca and a pedal. It's beautiful music.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with them at all.
Yeah,
Even if it's you decide it's not the sound you want, it helped me learn halfway learn what the heck I was doing with a synth. I mean,
yeah.
you know what I mean, as far as what what the parameters do. Like what's the envelope do? What's this frequency knob all about? You know what I mean? Like it was a playground to learn on.
100%. And it gives you that framework to say, okay, this is what I'm into doing. This gives me an idea of where I want to go. So
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I started to get that like grinding intense drum with the pedal and the vocal drum, and then with the micro brute, like it's got a real gritty kind of a thing to it already. And so I knew I kind of wanted to go in that direction. um I had a Volca sample, and I thought that was going to be good. I was going to put like found sound and all kind of stuff in there. Found out I hated it. So you learned about what sounds you like, what workflow you like, and what
Workflow.
tools you do
Yeah.
right.
You took the words
And
out of my
then
mouth. Yeah.
yeah, man, like that Volca sample, the way you have to like upload to the program, and you have to do the files, and the way that you use the interface. I hated it.
Yeah.
So
I, I'm
yeah,
uh,
man.
I'm really good or bad, I guess, depends on your perspective. But I really
Mm.
want stuff and like stuff that is super simple. You know, there's people
And
that
I
can
think
do
that's
amazing things with complicated things, but I prefer. It just feels better for me, and it works better for me with things that are simple.
that's important. Like I think, like I don't think there's a value judgment that needs to or should be put on that at all.
Yeah, you have to
Um,
find what works
you know
for
what I
you.
mean?
Some people really get into the, you know, wave shaping and sampling and all the stuff. But I just, you know, everyone has to find their thing. Like you're saying, with starting out with a Volca or whatever you start with, you're learning about the process, but you're also learning about the tools you need to make the things you want to make.
Yeah, man. And what you make is fine. Like you can be Yngwie Malmsteen, or you can be BB King, You can be the Ramones, or you can be Dream Theater.
Yeah.
It's doesn't matter. It's you're making what you want to make, and it's art. It's subjective. Some people like it, some people don't. As long as you do your best and you put your heart into it, then you're doing exactly what you need to do.
Well, what happens when you get burnt out from doing what you have to do? How do you stay creative? How do you like get recharged if you hit a little creative roadblock?
Good question. I was in that place one day. I went to a guitar clinic with Steve Vai, and if anybody has met Steve Vai for any period of time, you'll know that he's a very nice gentleman. And so, he does the thing. He plays the guitar. He, makes our heads spin.
It had to be such a
He
cool experience.
It was rad. It was so rad. I don't even know where this venue was in town, but it was this weird place in town. It was went through some weird side door, and there's this big venue I'd never seen or heard of before. We're all sitting down in these chairs, and in this like dark, kind of a larger space, there's a good amount of people there. And he just stood on stage and just like played and talked. And people have been to these, I'm sure they know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is the first one and the last one I ever went to. Um, Afterwards, after he tells us about like art and process and all the rest of it, answers the questions, plays some amazing guitar. We get like a shirt and something else or whatever, and you can go and shake his hand and get something signed or something like this. It's my turn. She smiles and shakes my hand. Thank you for coming. All the rest of it.
Yeah.
While he's signing the shirt, I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I know this line's moving quick and you're kind of just doing your thing. Can I just ask you a real quick question? He's like, sure, sure. And I'm just like, God, I've got this writer's block. I've got this creative block. I feel like I can't move past it. I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm maybe like losing it. Like I don't like what do you do? And he just kind of pauses and gets like a kind of a kindly, kind of a patient smile on his face, and he said something along the lines of, "You just wait, you know, you just wait it out. You take a breath and you maybe go do something else." But like his the general concept he imparted to me was basically, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And
Just
sure enough,
wait to
that
catch the next wave, huh?
yeah, man. And like you can kind of sit on the edge of the pier waiting for the next tide or whatever, and you can wait there all day, or you can go get an ice cream and come back when it's time for that to happen.
Dude,
Or
I love ice cream.
dude, too much. I love ice cream too much.
But do you have an
uh,
ice cream tattoo?
do you?
Yes.
What? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll send you a picture later.
Nice, nice. Got I've got a Japanese sleeve, and or I guess a little bit of green in there. Something weird, a fly, and um, got an ohm on my hand. My grandmother on my mom's side, because it was in Trinidad. There's the black folks and there's the Indian folks.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like a north-south thing. I think that's just kind of how the population is distributed. Um, in the south is where my family was, kind of mid, kind of south, kind of, and so Indian. Back in the day, I don't know if they do this anymore. Back in the day, they would tattoo a woman's hand or a girl's hand with an Om,
Mm.
which is an Indian symbol. And she was little and she didn't want that to happen, and it was painful, and she didn't really like it because, like, sure, it's like a holy thing, and it keeps them pure, and it's all like whatever religious kind of Hindu stuff. But at the end of the day, as a person, she wasn't
Yeah.
really into it when she was younger. She appreciates it now. She's a very pious woman, and she's into it kind of now. But like when I was a kid, I would talk to her about it. Not her favorite thing in the world, and she
Mm.
talked to me how it was painful, and she didn't want it to happen, and that stuck with me really strongly. And so when I got older, I got one on my hand, and kind of a solidarity thing. And so I don't know, maybe some like proper Indian person will see me and they'll be like, "What are you doing? That doesn't make What are you, like a married woman? That doesn't make any sense."
Right,
Or
right.
unmarried, or I don't know what it means, but like, but that to me, that's just I got it from my grandma.
Right, of
And
course.
then I have last tattoo I have is on my knuckles. I have ADSR.
Oh,
So
that's awesome. I remember seeing that. I forgot about it, but now that you mention it, I remember you sharing a picture of that. That's freaking awesome.
yeah, no, thanks.
I've got the privilege
Sorry.
of a longtime friend becoming a tattoo artist in the past couple years, so
Oh,
I'm sure I
sweet.
have a pretty inky future for myself.
Hell yeah, that's a good friend to have.
I didn't mean to derail us with ice cream and tattoos, but you just finished up with that amazing advice from Steve Vai, and a person of that caliber in his art. I think that'd be a good guy to consider that advice, and I agree. And like you
Yeah,
said, you can sit there and wait, or you can go get busy, and do something else productive or creative or entertaining or whatever you need to do until you feel
yeah.
that that tide coming back.
For sure. And I feel like it's a like I'm not like an energy person or whatever, but like there's a certain um uh, for lack of a better word, an energy, like
Yeah,
a certain amount of you know endurance or whatever that you have, and then kind of comes and kind of goes. You have to like refill yourself.
yeah, yeah,
You work all day at your job, you come home, you gotta relax, and you gotta fill up with like family instead of like the boss telling you to do this and do that and do the other, right?
right.
um there's just a certain amount of recharging that has to go on there. And so you pour yourself in, like anyone, and I imagine most, if not all, of your audience are artists or musicians of some kind. But like, when you pour yourself into your art and then you're just bagged at the end of it, you gotta charge up.
Yeah,
You gotta sleep. You gotta eat. You gotta go out into the woods, or
yeah,
go hang out with your friends, or whatever you gotta do to fill yourself with. Just coming back to that thing about, we're not like a monoliths or categories as human beings. You have to find those other ways to fulfill yourself, and then you're able to go back into it, right? And
that really.
sometimes it's
Please, no, please finish.
oh oh, I was just thinking about like all these like Palestine again. I'm not trying to get you shadow banned. I'm sorry. These
You're
these
fine.
protests that are right. The riot cops came and took over the encampment here in Calgary. Just
Mm,
I think it was yesterday. Sometimes that energy isn't this calm, peaceful, zen thing. Sometimes it's indignant, fire that burns in you, and you got to create. You're going like,
yeah.
Rage Against the Machine style, or whatever, right? Like
Hmm.
there's all these different types of ways to fill up and recover, and to um, you know uh, express afterwards, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it really mirrors your explanation of that transition into synthesizers you made, because like you, in a sense, you had to stop and recharge. You may have uh, had a hampered ability in one area, but when you gave yourself the time to recharge and assess everything, you just kind of organically uh, found that avenue, that replacement for that creativity that was needing to come out.
For sure. 'Cause there was a lot of like sadness and frustration that involved, right?
I'm sure.
Um, and it built up, and it needed a place to go. And it's not like I don't have some of that already. I mean, like
Yeah.
my primary and favorite genre of music is heavy metal, and so that's kind of a thing. Catharsis is kind of a thing. So yeah, man. And so that's where that aggressiveness comes in, the grinding rhythms when I have rhythm going, or just that noise, just that
Noise.
noise, man.
Yeah, if anyone listening has not heard your music, I really hope they go check it out, because I love it. I've not now, I don't know a lot of people, but I haven't heard anyone else play a modular synth like you do. And it's, maybe I shouldn't say play it like you, but your sound,
Yeah.
because the things you've mentioned already, uh, while we've been talking, like the metal, and like the noise. It's like the way you blend it and make your sound it's just so cool. Like I could hear it and be like, hey, that's Bobby, and it's like this alien metal synth drone noise thing that I just love it.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, man. It's a real visceral kind of expression, and I just feel it like in my gut. You know what I mean? Like when it comes out, like that's really. I was I was at a show once. It was I was with a buddy, and we were seeing. I was there for Devin Townsend. He was there for Children of Bodom. That was
Mm-hmm.
his favorite. And can't remember who was on stage at the time, but whatever, they finish a song, or they're like, "You're ready to rock," or whatever they're saying, right? And I am not a robust fella. I'm kind of a skinny little fella. And I just like I just like let out my metal voice or whatever right up there. I'm just like, yeah, and I can't do it anymore because my body won't let me do it.
Yeah.
But like I do this roar like, yeah, and my buddy looks over at me and he's like, dude, I didn't know that kind of sound could come out of you.
Yeah.
It's just this thing that's in you, right? And for me, it's got a bit of aggression in there for sure. I mean, I make all kinds of different kind of I mean, maybe people won't feel like it's different, and I don't like post everything that I make, but like, there's definitely different, like a spectrum of
Yeah.
art that I both make and I both feel. But like when it comes to that noise, it comes from the bottom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. You do. Not all your stuff sounds the same. I didn't mean it to sound like that.
Oh no,
To
no, no! I don't
anyone.
mean to defend. I just
Oh no, I know you didn't take it that way, but just to clarify to anyone else, that, yeah. But I love the noisy stuff. Uh, But
appreciate it,
yeah,
and I'm so grateful that people like it too. Like I would, after my wife convinced me to kind of share it, like there's a certain amount of growth and that comes from that as well.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
don't,
for
I don't
sure.
really do
Like
it to like cultivate an
personally,
audience.
as well as artistically.
That's what I'm saying for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
right? Like this is anyway. There's all kinds of different things like a presentation and practicing. Because like if you're just noodling in your house, like maybe you don't have the desire or feel the need to make something with structure or like think about like beginning and end points. Because
yeah,
like as a noise artist, you could just make noise and it's just there. It
yeah.
doesn't begin, it doesn't end, it's just there. Um, but presenting made me think about, you know, timbre and dynamics and
Eh,
beginning and end points and A B sections and all these different things that I wouldn't have considered otherwise because I was just doing it to express.
yeah.
And it was just really an emotional practice, and it still is, but now it's starting to frame in as a proper musical pursuit. And I do hope to get an album out, before I die, eventually.
I'm sure you will,
And
and I look forward to it, man. And I like how you just describe that, like how you're morphing that into or molding that into. I forget the word you said, but in a more musical way. You didn't say it musical way, but
framework, did I use
the
that word?
framework maybe. Yeah, but anyway, what you said you're doing, I like it. Oh, you said incorporating that start and end points and like just
Right.
building something out of it instead of just turning it on then turning it off.
For sure, yeah. Songwriting was never my strong suit. I was just like the dude that played on the side kind of thing. So yeah, it's not necessarily something that's ingrained in me or like intuitive to me. So yeah, it's been really good to kind of find my way into that through the different um, choices that I make creatively, the choice to post, um, the choice to improve, because like you don't have to, right? You can just enjoy yourself. But
Exactly.
I have, you know what I mean? I just have this desire to get better, this desire to make something more I don't know, tangible from a musical standpoint, maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I have a desire to make end products. It's maybe a little gross to call music a product, but I mean just like the package,
Yeah.
just like the end result. I'm into it. Like to a certain degree, when I get a tattoo, I'm kind of there for the pain, but I'm also there for art. I'm
Exactly.
also there for the kind of just the overall experience. You kind of the butterflies before, and you get there, and you're talking to the artist, and this is the whole thing, right?
It is such a
The
fun thing.
weird burning throbbing afterwards,
Yeah.
sleeping in weird positions, all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of experience. A lot of people have tattoos nowadays, but if you don't,
Yeah.
it's a physical, like a endurance, a test. Like you said, you get the butterflies. There's excitement. There's so much going on, and you can play it cool and be cool, but like in your body, there's things going on. you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a nervous talker when it comes to that. I just chew people's ear off when I'm getting tattooed. probably a little annoying, but
Well, I guess it
um,
might depend on the topics.
yeah, if it's me, it's usually music. I mean, I will find any way I can to turn a conversation into music. I try not to, you know,
Yeah.
do that to people, but
Right. Right.
it definitely happens, and which is a reason I'm grateful for this conversation. It's cool to talk about, just talk about the process, talk about coming into it, going through it. I love it. It's very cool. I appreciate you inviting me to do this.
Uh, you're most welcome. It's my pleasure. Started the show with just reaching out to people I was acquainted with, and my music buddies and friends online. So this is really fun for me because I'm just getting to have extended conversations with people I've chatted with some extensively. So
Hmm.
it's a pleasure for me too. So I appreciate it.
Cool, man. Right on.
But speaking of the process and all that, what do you find, or and this maybe this is a moving target, but what's inspiring you lately?
Inspiration's always like a weird thing for me. Like I don't know how much I kind of identify with the concept of inspiration. Like I guess that sounds kind of weird. Maybe I just don't think about it as much. Because like I'll watch an artist make something. Like I've watched like my buddy 29 Cult. Dude makes rad stuff. Every time it comes out with something, I just get charged up and I want to go. So certainly you can think of that as an inspiration.
Maybe inspiration is
Um,
is a lofty term, but maybe what's a motivation? That's kind of sounds like the vibe you're talking about, like a what motivates you?
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that's totally it, for me. Um, it I think it's everything I just finished talking
yeah,
about, that
yeah,
that
yeah.
desire to grow and improve. And so the motivation kind of comes from it's I used to be like one of those people that would read like self-help books and just try and like to try and like, better myself
Hmm.
in whatever way. I just read stacks of these things.
Yeah,
And something that kind of, I think a lot of them are kind of like not great. But
yeah.
what I learned from reading so many of those bloody books is the same types of themes come up.
Right,
One of them is that you just keep doing it, and you gather that momentum and you keep going. And if you lose that momentum, no magic trick, you just do it, and then you start again, and you gather that momentum again, and then you keep going, you ride that wave. And so that's what it is, for me. The motivation is to be able to keep doing it. And maybe it's like a little bit of fear. You get an illness that makes it so that you can't play instruments. Sometimes in the back of your head you're just like, oh shit, what's coming around the next corner, right?
yeah,
And, I'm getting older. I'm like early to mid 40s here. That kind of thought creeps in as well. But it's just, the motivation is to do it and have it done, and then have something and say, this is what I can do, this is what I want, and then look to the future and say, this is what I can, what I'll be able to have at the end, or to accomplish. You know,
right.
um, I sit down in front of this instrument. I'm staring at it as we're speaking, and it's I just see potential when I look at it, right? There's possibilities. And when I'm doing it, like I just feel like I don't I guess this is it. I guess that's a full sentence. I don't necessarily think, I just feel.
Yeah,
And that's a really nice place to be in, right?
yeah,
Like my dad, the musician, often talks about being in the zone. That's what he calls it.
yeah,
People call it like flow state, or in the groove, or whatever they call it, right?
yeah.
That's a thing I think we all strive for, either directly or indirectly, to have that natural state of peace. That's um, you know, uh, uh, like a really natural state of us just like being in the world and not pushing or pulling, just being.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, man.
It's
And
like,
so
yeah.
hmm?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to finish by saying,
Yeah,
so, you get into that state, and then you have something that comes out the other end. You're enjoying it. You feel it. You finish with it. And you have an end result. You have a recording. You're like, wow, that's great. And then, like when I listen to music, sometimes I'll hear, oh, I wish they would have done this, or I just hone in on like a certain like bass lick. I'm like, oh, I would take that bass lick and I would do this, this, and this, and I would just use that lick to, and it would just, I just like I start building in my head when I hear things.
right.
And so you listen to what you just make, and like, oh, this is what has to come next, and we got to do this, and so that's like I'm really motivated to create these things that aren't necessarily in my head. Like I don't have a lot of preconceptions, but I'm motivated by what I know I can do. Just like from like a mental kind of a standpoint. The doing is obviously the execution of the process, and I do not have an album, so I do not have proof of concept, but I know I can get there.
But
So
you're
that's
laying
what
the
motivates
groundwork.
me.
You're doing the work now, though. Like you're not going to get there
Yeah.
without being here first.
Very well said. Absolutely. And I try not to be like, well, buddy over here's got like 20 albums and he's 25 years old, and here I am, 40 something
But you
years
know
old, and
what?
I don't have a single album.
We don't know the details of others' lives intimately. You know what I mean? Uh,
Very
and
true.
of course you know that. I know you know that. But it's like we
Yeah.
have to remind ourselves of that when we fall into that trap of comparing ourselves to others. Like for instance, uh, we're actually about the same age and same size
Mhm.
apparently. But me, I have a son that's 21 years old. He just bought his first house. I helped him move into his house last weekend. I've never bought you know, traditionally with a mortgage, I've never bought a house in my life. And
Mhm.
it'd be easy to compare, but it's better. And because he's my son, it's easy for me to look at it like this. But I'm just so happy for him that he's there. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that when we look over there and see someone doing so well. Like it's not something to beat ourselves up about. We should be celebrating other artists and their accomplishments too. And I know you do, but I mean that's that internal dialogue we have sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. Like, what's that saying? I think it's out of a book here. Jamie Josta say all the time in his podcast. Comparison is the thief of joy, or I think is what
Oh
it is.
yes, yeah, yeah. I've heard that. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah, man. So I succumb to that more often than I should, and I definitely try and keep it in mind. Um, yeah, my wife's always helped me to catch myself on that one. Um, it's so important. You're totally right. And so I really try to keep that in mind. That I'm going. I'm driving my car in my lane, right?
right, right.
So I just gotta try and keep that in mind, and just take it one step at a time. And every journey begins with 1,000 steps, or every journey of 1,000 steps begins with a single step, rather.
Yeah, and the reason I got so excited about you getting on that train of thought is because uh, I've really been dwelling on that lately, and even talking to some others about it. And it lines up perfectly with what you're saying. Is how focusing on staying in the moment and staying present in your day and in the now moment. That's that's the key for me. That's the key of, I forget your exact words, but finding that natural flow in life and timing in
Mm,
life, like you're talking about, and not
yeah,
getting caught up in the negative thought patterns of regretting poor decisions or missed opportunities, and not worrying about the future, or judging myself or comparing myself to someone else, but literally just being in the moment. And like you mentioned, playing intuitively, but just like living intuitively, and literally tapping into that flow of life. And
yeah.
that's how I'm trying to live, and that's what I see reflected in what you were just saying. and it's just real beautiful, man. I love it.
Right on, man. That's the way to be for sure. I try that as much as possible. I'm a pretty terrible meditator. I've spent a good amount of time trying to do it, but I find it difficult to kind of maintain that habit. To just that skill set of just
Yeah,
being present in that moment to moment kind of a thing. That's why I love music so much, is because
it helps do that.
it's like
Yeah,
it's yeah. I feel like it's cheating.
yeah,
I've
it's
got
like
like
a
my
portal to it or
yeah
to that zone.
yeah,
Yeah,
dude,
it,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. It is, and I'm like you. I have meditated, should do it more, but for me, I find my uh, obviously it's a little bit different, but I find a good meditation for me is that focusing on the now, just being hyper aware of my surroundings and all that's going on, and not in my head, you know.
Yeah, man, that's the way.
Well, Bobby, I don't want to keep you too long, and but I do
Honestly, I could do
have.
this all day.
I could too, but whenever I have a friend on here or a guest that is digging it, I just invite him back. So if you're down, you're
Cool.
you're welcome back. We'll do it again, and maybe
Down like Funky Town, brother.
awesome. Maybe we can dive into a, a more detailed, process of something you do, or who knows, what we might have a topic come up between now and then. You never know. But before
Absolutely.
we end it though, uh,
Yep.
tell me about this artwork you sent me that I'm gonna share.
Oh yeah. So, I somewhat recently, I think since about spring of last year, um, discovered that there is a noise scene here in Calgary. I had no idea. Somebody saw me on Instagram. Actually, who was it? It was what's the name of this band? Bat something. Shoot, I can't remember. There's a hardcore band here in town. They actually are out of Bears Paw, I think, just outside of town here. And so they're a hardcore band, but the singer is what is I think the guitarist's kid, and he's like I don't know 7 years old or something. He's just like a little guy,
Wow,
and he's like a hardcore singer. He's like a little dude's going Madball style, right?
awesome.
So yeah, man. And so uh he saw me on Instagram. He enjoyed it. He told a friend who is um, his Instagram handle is Manstopper. He performs with a pact between friends. I think is the name of his group. I'm so sorry, dude, if I forgot the name of your group. A pact between friends, I think is what it is. No, it's a pact between strangers. That's what it is. A pact between strangers is the name of his band, and they're
Redeemed.
kind of like a
Yeah.
kind of like a noise rock group, right? And they play here in town. And he's a promoter too. And so he got a hold of me and he says, "Hey, you want to come play this actually a squat show?" And so I played this squat show like under the train bridge in town somewhere here. And that was my first live performance. And this is the first time I ever performed as this modular noise artist that I had just kind of organically grown into.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the start of it. And I was like, oh, this is great. There's places to actually do this. Like I totally would have done it before, but I didn't think that anybody would have given a shit in town, right? Like you look online and it's kind of like this, like you say, this niche group and all these people kind of coming together. There's Americans and Japanese folks and people from like Eastern and Western Europe and all the rest of it, right? But uh, so that's what it turned into. I started playing like little venues here and there. There's this coffee shop in town called the Loophole. It's connected to like a bookstore. It's a cool little place, and they have noise artists there all the time, and that's where this noise scene kind of gets down a lot of the time. And I just met all these people, and now played the two shows there, and I have certainly have a means to kind of do it, and so now I'm starting to become this live artist, and this is the development, this is the growth, and so I'm really grateful for that, and it's such a cool thing for me. And But it's a little tricky for me because I have a
Yeah.
fibromyalgia thing, and so
Yeah.
being out, going out is kind of difficult. And so, um, uh, I asked my wife to kind of help me get around sometimes. And I call her muscles.
Yeah.
She's small as well. We're all a bunch of small folks here, skinny small folks, and I call her muscles, and she's carrying all this stuff for me.
Yeah.
And like the synth and the stand and all the rest of it. So, and she's an artist too. Holly.Leanne, Leanne, dot design, Holly.Leanne dot design on Instagram. And so she's there, she's hanging out, she's enjoying performances of all the other people there. She's a visual artist. So she painted the, sorry for the long story, she painted the picture that you're seeing there.
Yeah.
Plein air is the name of the practice of just doing it right there in the moment of kind of what you see. I'm sure there's a better way to describe it, but that's what I understand. And she did that on her tablet in, oh, I don't remember the name of the app. I can't remember the name of the app. But yeah, it's just an iPad and Apple Pencil, and she just did it right there.
It's really cool because like just knowing you and what you do, like I can totally see you playing modular synthesizer there, but it's still kind of obscure and vague in the style. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it kind of like lends itself to kind of the medium, kind of has that kind
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
kind of roughness to it or whatever. And like she was just busting it off kind of quick in the moment as well, right? So I mean, it's just kind of like it's not like she spent all day painting it, but that's kind of the style as well, right? So, but yeah, it's really cool. And now that we've been going there, she's been like painting other artists, so that's pretty cool.
Are you going there back to the same spot under the bridge?
Oh no, sorry, no, this is at the coffee shop. The Under the
Oh, the
Bridge was just like
coffee
a
shop.
one-off kind of a
I'm
swap
sorry.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, because I was
Oh, I
about
should have
to
made that
say,
clear.
like, you're right. There is no one in town that likes it, but there's people under the bridge that do. But
We're all a bunch of bridge trolls. We're all just
yeah,
noise artists.
you play one show under the rail bridge, you've been off the rails ever since.
Nice. I love it. Uh,
Man, I really appreciate you being on here today. I do need to wrap it up because I have some personal obligations to get to, but we've been
yeah.
going over an hour, and I'm really stoked on everything we talked about, and I'm very grateful for your time and our connection and friendship, man, and look forward to doing this again sometime in the future with you.
For sure. I'm super grateful for all of it as well. I can't wait. Thank you so much. Thank you to anyone and everyone listening. Um, hit me up and we'll have a conversation. And I just love to talk art. I just love to make art and you know, see out there.
Absolutely. I'm gonna. I guess I'll close out and then I'll say goodbye to you. And no, you know what? I do that. Let's switch it up. I'm gonna have a warm goodbye to you, Bobby, and then I'll close the show.
That sounds good.
Okay. Now, after explaining that, I'll just do it. But thanks again, man. I really appreciate it, and I'm gonna send you the picture of my ice cream tattoo, like I said I would.
Oh, nice.
And
Cool.
since you mentioned her, I'll put your wife's account on the in the notes as well, if so people can see her art.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And you tell her I said hi. I mean, not that I know her, but I think I've messaged her a time or two, and I love seeing her paintings and her artwork. It's really cool. But man, you have a good
Definitely will.
weekend, and just stay in love, brother.
Thanks, brother. Same to you.
All right, peace.
Peace, man.
Structures, episode 8. That's a wrap. That was a really good conversation, and I hope you guys really got something out of it. And I'm sure Bobby will be back. So, hope you dig it. I love you all. Talk to you next weekend. Bye.